you'll start it here. And then the same exact thing here again. And quickly you have this. Like so. So that's the pattern. You want to practice it like that, and you also want to come up with other ways to play the same thing and add any note. Doesn't matter if it's in a scale, out of a scale, just add another note, make it another pattern that you want to practice also, just the same way. Okay, now let's talk about some minor arpeggios and other ways to play them too, and variations on that. Now let's take a basic form like this to start off with. Looks like this. We're going to do an A minor arpeggio, but we're going to add the second note in an A scale, which is B, and we're going to add it twice on the way up like this. There's your B, and the rest of the notes are C and E, which are in an A minor arpeggio. So we have this. Okay. Slowly we have this. Okay, I want to add some notes in there like this. Okay, now we added some notes that are not necessarily in the A minor scale, but they sound kind of nice in this pattern, and it's just a matter of choosing notes that you think sound neat. You know, don't really consciously think of, well, is it in this scale or is it in that scale? You know, when you're making variations, just choose anything and try it. So what I added here was an E flat and a G flat. So I'll show you where I used all the new notes. Here's the pattern, slowly. Okay, and then coming down, I used the E flat here. E flat again right there. Okay, and now here I added another little pattern. So I ended with this G flat here. And back up the same way. Okay? Okay, now let's do a much longer variation on this A minor arpeggio. Now let's make it like this. Okay. Now all that is just the same notes that are in an A minor arpeggio, A, C, and E, and occasionally I added a B note like this. Only right there. The rest of the notes are only A, C, and E. Now, what that tells you is any kind of configuration that you can make A, C, and E, that's an arpeggio, and anywhere that you could play that is fine. So all you have to do is find places to play those three notes and practice them, and you have your own arpeggio form. Okay, now let's take this one slowly and break it down and figure out the best way to play it. Okay, that's once around slowly. Okay, now once you start getting a feel for these different forms, you can go in and out of them, you know, at random pretty much. You can get up to about here, and when you're here, circle this for a little while before you go and all that. So that means when you get to a certain spot like the middle, you can stay there for a while before you continue with the end of the arpeggio like so. Okay, that's how you make the variations in there. You play things a couple extra times, or you add a certain note. You know, it's just it's just variations. I can't stress that enough. That's where you're going to get the differences in your playing. You got to variate what you're doing. Now I'd like to start our next section, and where I'm going to concentrate on exotic sounding playing. Now it takes some exotic sounding scales, and phrasing mainly is what makes your playing really sound different, you know. So I'll show you a couple examples of different phrases and different scales. And here's a scale that I've used quite a bit, and I'll show you some patterns with that, and I call it your basic Japanese scale. Okay, This is the one that you immediately play and it sounds Japanese. And I think it's very nice. And these are the 5 notes in it. Okay, this one would be in the key of D minor. So that tells you that the root is on the A string right there. The notes in the scale are A, A sharp, D, E, and F. Okay, so anywhere you play only those 5 notes, you have this sounding scale. So let's start with a pattern, a quite difficult pattern at first, but once you get it, you should have a pretty good idea of how to make variations on this basic pattern. The basic pattern obviously is this, and you could take that up an octave and go, and obviously here too. Okay, now let's make a big variation on this, and hopefully you can come up with some in between. Okay, that's a long variation, and pretty much covers the neck there. And what it is, it's a couple of different things, but it starts off with a pattern, and the pattern is made up of variations of that scale. So let me show you what that is slowly. And this will take some practice, but once you get it down, it's really quite nice. Okay, so that's the first pattern. Obviously, in practicing, you could practice that one alone before you get to the whole big long thing and get something like this. And the same thing goes for the octave next. So you can practice it there, and obviously the next octave up too. Okay. So you want to get just that basic pattern first before you move on and do the whole long thing. But I'll show you the whole long thing anyway. And the whole long thing going back and forth looks like this. You take this pattern all the way up. Now, when you get to this third octave, it's not the same as the other two because we have to come down. So let me show you how we approach this third octave. Okay, now I'll play it again even slower. Repeat the whole thing again from the beginning. Now this leaves you lots of room to do more variations. Now an easy place to do a variation would be, say, here when you're at this point. Okay, now you're sitting here with your first finger holding down, and all these fingers are free to do whatever they want to do. So you can make a variation of that pattern that we've already done a lot of times in this video with the 2 down strokes and an up. So you could add that in like this. It's really up to you. You just got to make lots of variations. First, practice it the way I showed it and then change it. Okay. Now, I'll take this Japanese scale that we're doing and adapt it to a 5 pattern, like the 5 pattern that we did in the pentatonic scale first. Now, the 5 pattern that we did before was this one. Now, let's use this Japanese scale and use the 5 pattern on that. Now, we're going to take it in the key of B minor. So, the root's going to be here on the A string, and let's start with that note and go like this. And so on. Now I'll play it fast first before I go into the whole thing, and this is a passage from the sound page song that I have called Go Off. Okay, and slowly we'll break it up into little sections of 5s like this. you.